Welcome to the UGC EPG Pathshala lecture series in computer science. In this series of lectures, we have been looking at the subject database management system. This session will be a continuation from the previous session, like we have been discussing on active databases. We will continue working on the same objectives that we had earlier. Now let us try to understand how to write a SQL statement, but in order to write a SQL, we need to basically study on the syntax for creating triggers in SQL. So we have certain notions or syntaxes to be followed for writing a SQL statement. For every SQL statement might have a trigger name. Trigger names are nothing but unique with one database schema. So already I have told you a schema is nothing but the overall structure of the database. So trigger name is to be unique within the database schema. Not only that, this trigger can also have a timing. On particular condition or check of a time, we can activate the trigger. So timing is also an essential component of a trigger. So to define on the syntax of timing, this timing depends on the order of controlled events. So whether it is before or after or instead of can be the three alternatives of timing. As we have seen during the row level and statement level trigger execution, we have said before trigger, before row level, before after row level, before statement level and after statement level. And we will look at triggering an event, which means an event which fires the actual trigger, which will be represented as E, as I already told you, ECA being the condition, and we will be looking at the condition which will try to filter most of the records. So filtering condition is checked when triggering the event occurs, which will be represented as C, and target is nothing but the table representation or a relation or a view against which the trigger is fired. But in order to trigger or in order to fire the trigger, they should be both created within the same schema. So it should fall under the same database schema, only then the trigger can actually be fired. And we have certain parameters for triggering, parameters like denote the record columns preceded by colon, something like colon new or colon old. So this new trying to refer to the new record and old trying to refer to the old record for new and older versions of the values respectively. And finally, we will have a trigger action, which are nothing but SQL statements that needs to be executed when the trigger fires. So this should be surrounded by a begin and end statement. So there will be certainly a begin and end for the overall trigger that we will be performing. Only after this end, instead of commit or rollback that we mentioned as part of SQL transactions, we will have this as an action. As we have seen the different syntaxes for triggers, here we will study on the syntax for creating statement triggers. So a simple statement level trigger will be create, either it can be create or replace, which is part of data definition. So create, or at times I may also use replace trigger. So create trigger or replace trigger, whatever suits better for the scenario, we may have to write it in the format. So I am just mentioning the overall representation. So create trigger, trigger name, timing, event 1, or it can be more instances also. If in case we are to mention a row level trigger, then it can be event 1 or event 2 or event 3, like that, on a specific relation called table name. Then we may have to begin, the action that is to be performed will be represented as SQL statements with an end in final, only then the result will be updated. So, the trigger body consisting of SQL statements will be executed only once according to the prescribed timing. So, here I have represented only one event. So, this will be executed only once, occurs against the monitored table in question table name. For the same statement level trigger, what we have seen as an example or what we have studied as a syntax, now that we will be looking at as an example. If you look at, try executing the example of a trigger, say create trigger increase salary before update of salary on employee, begin, insert into salary history, increased, changed on, values is equal to S system date end. So, this is actually to be the action that is to be performed, but I look for one, the event which is creating a trigger which says increased salary, but I am looking for a condition which says before update of salary. So, whenever there is a salary component that is to be given to the third party, if at all I am trying to improvise on the salary or trying to increase the salary, by looking at the table called employee, we may have to update on the salary by creating a trigger, and what it should do is insert into salary history the increased salary. Not only that, when it has been increased, the date also has to be mentioned with the values. Increased salary should be automatically be yes, or whether it is changed, the system date will be automatically called. So, this is how we tend to represent the statement level triggers, this being executed only once for the entire relation. If you consider here the syntaxes that we have already defined during the beginning of this particular session, here the trigger name is increase salary trigger and the timing is before update of, or this timing is before executing the statement. The triggering event would be update of salary column. The target is on the employee table that we have already provided, and the triggering action will be insert values into salary history table. So, that is all with the statement level trigger, where we could execute the overall statement level trigger only once. Now, we may have to look at the row level triggers, for which the syntax of creation of low level trigger will be in this format. So, for creating a row level trigger, create or replace trigger name. So, this is very common with respect to statement or row level trigger. So, create trigger name, timing event 1 or event 2 or event 3 multiple instances on table name. Until this it is very common, but we have a referencing column which says referencing old as old, OLD in caps as old, and new as new. This is to be spelt as AND for each row when condition, begin all the SQL statements and end. If you look at this syntax, the trigger body consists of SQL statements which will be executed once for each row, that is before row trigger and after row trigger. For every row, for every record, this trigger will try executing. How it was before, referenced old as old, new as new, by event 1, event 2, event 3 in the table named table name, supplied to the additional condition. So, checking for the additional condition. Let us project an example similar to a statement level trigger, where I have a create or replace trigger, derived commission trigger, before update of salary on employee for each row when new.job is equal to salesman. So, this is the addition that we are trying to enclose as part of row level trigger, where for every row we do have a check where we mention when there is a new job is equal to salesman, begin, new dot commission is equal to old dot commission multiplied by new dot salary divided by old dot salary. So, this is the action that is to be performed, where during our explanation I have told you the references are to be inferred with a colon in the beginning. If you look at this particular query, when there is a new job called salesman, the new commission will be old commission multiplied by new commission divided by the old commission, new salary divided by the old salary. If you look at the different syntaxes that we have used as part of the definition and as part of the statement level trigger, this row level trigger has a trigger name called derive commission trigger. The timing for it is as before, like before executing the statement. So, before row this has to be triggered, and the actual triggering event is update of salary column, and the filtering condition is check for when new dot job is equal to salesman. So, the new job should be salesman, and the target has to be performed on the employee table. So, target is somewhere represented here, target is to be on the employee table. Triggering the parameters old and new. What is the old commission? What is the old salary? What is the new commission? What is the new salary? So, triggering parameters would be old and new, and the action that this trigger has to perform is to calculate the new commission to be uploaded. So far we have looked at both the examples of statement level trigger and row level trigger, but there is an order in which these triggers are to be executed. If you look at the entire order by which the triggers are to be executed, first we will try executing all the before statement triggers. So, let us try to understand whether it is before statement triggers when there is a relation. So, before statement, if it is to be mentioned as part of the trigger syntax that we have provided, it initially tries to identify if there is a statement of before statement, if there is a command of before statement, we will execute that first. Disable temporarily all the integrity constraints which are supposed to be the validity constraints recorded against the table. So, temporarily discard all the validity constraints that we may have to check on a table. Look for each row in the table, execute all before row triggers, execute the SQL statement against the row and perform integrity constraint checking the data. So, after having executed all the before statements, we may have to neglect the validity checking, then we may have to execute the before row as I have indicated on the example which we have seen in the previous session. Once after before row is executed, before row is considered, we may have to actually put up our action, where after having executed on the action, then execute all after row triggers, complete deferred integrity constraint. So, what has been made disabled, now you make it active. So, complete deferred integrity constraint checking against the table, execute all after statement triggers. So, that is the format by which we may have to execute, or the system tries to understand the trigger in this format, where before statement will be initially executed, integrity constraints will be made disabled, we will execute before row triggers, executing all the SQL statements, execute after row triggers. Now, we will complete all the deferred integrity constraints, finally execute all the after statement triggers. Let us try to understand how to control triggers using SQL. Because of this controlling statements like disabling, re-enabling statements, we will see some examples of disable and re-enable statements. To disable or re-enable database trigger, there is a command which is called alter trigger. So, alter trigger name, either we may have to disable or enable. As we have already seen, if the trigger is not to be executed, if the validity checks have not to be performed, then we may have to execute this alter trigger with a disable command, and if at all it is to be performed, then we may have to activate it by giving a command of enable. So, disable or re-enable all the triggers for a table means alter table name, whereas the previous trigger by trigger itself needs to be enabled or disabled. Here the table needs to be enabled or disabled. So, alter table name, we may have to disable or enable all triggers. And finally, we can also have a statement of removing the entire trigger. So, removing a trigger from a database is equivalent to drop trigger name. How to use this database triggers? Looking at different constraints, we can use this database triggers for multiple instances like auditing table operations. So, each time a table is accessed, auditing information is recorded against it. So, any number of times, if I am in case of old records, in case of legacy systems, any number of times the any specific record being used or accessed, then it should indirectly mean there is an auditing. So, for audit table operations we might use a trigger. Not only that, triggers can also be used for tracking record value changes, where for each time a record value is changed, the previous value is recorded. So, every time when there is a change on a particular row, then there should be a change on the previous value also. That is what we have mentioned it already. New is equal to old into some values we have represented. So, that is what is a track record change that we are trying to indicate here. Protecting database referential integrity, which means if a foreign key points to changing records, then the referential key must also be maintained. Maintenance of semantic integrity, that means there should be a meaningful validity check. For example, when a factory is closed, all employees should become unemployed. So, if I say a factory is closed, then all employees pertaining to that factory, every tuple should indicate to a close of value. If I have not dropped the entire table, even then also if it says there exists an employee, then it is then the use of trigger is not been taken care. So, when a factory is closed, all employees should become null. Storing derived data, which is nothing but the number of items in the trolley. In case of store, the number of items in the trolley should correspond to the current session selection. And finally, we have security access control as part of database triggers, which is checking user privileges when accessing sensitive information. So, if at all I am tend to use any of the mails into another machine, then every time I used to give my user ID and password to get into the actual details that I wanted, only then I will be able to access the machine. So, that can also be made as a trigger, whereby only after successful performance of user ID and password, only when it matches, then we are triggering for an action. Now, let us try to understand on counting the statement execution. If you look at this particular trigger, create or replace trigger audit employee, after delete on employee for each row, begin update audit table, set delete is equal to del plus 1, where username is equal to user and table name is equal to employee, end, which actually means whenever an employee record is deleted from the database, there should be a counter in an audit table register system. The number of deleted records for current user in the system variable user is incremented. So, any delete that has been performed in the audit table registration, the number of rows that are deleted for the current user in the system variable user is being incremented by a value of 1. Not only that, we can also track the changes that we have performed on a specific table, for which also we can write a trigger. Create or replace trigger audit employee values after delete or update on employee. For each row, begin insert into audit employee values the attributes of username, the timestamp which is nothing but the time and date, ID, old last date, new last date, old title, new title, old salary, new salary. All these values are to be updated. So, we may record all the changes. Previously a person has been getting this salary and now he is getting this salary. What is his last name previous and last name for now, or with some of the values like user, system date, old employee number, old employee name, new employee name, old job and new job, old salary, new salary. So, these are the values that are to be inserted into the audit employee values. So, this happens whenever some details for an employee are deleted or updated. So, there seems to be some of the deletion of an employee and there can be an inclusion into his post. For both the previous and new details, we may have a complete track on the overall system, whereby each and every record that has been modified have been recorded in an audit table to allow tracing the history of changes. So, any changes that has been made, we are actually trying to track the entire history that has been done. So, an insert operation cannot be recorded with this trigger, as old employee number has no value. So, having done this operation, there will be certain values. Say in case if I have deleted an employee, I cannot do any insertion operation at that specific place. Only that record will be shown and it will be read only. There cannot be any insertion that can happen to that specific employee. As we have already said, on one of the issues of active databases, this active databases can also protect referential integrity. Create or replace trigger cascading updates. So, this can also have a cascading effect on multiple tables. So, after update of department number on department, for each row, begin update employee, set employee.department number is equal to new.department number, where employee's department number is equal to old department number. So, this is the reference that we are trying to provide. So, whenever the department number changes, all employee records for this department will automatically be changed. So, any number of times we are trying to change the employee records for this department, we will try changing automatically all the values, so that the employees will continue to work in the same department. There are also restrictions for database triggers, something like one problem that we majorly see is impossible to determine certain values during execution of sequence of operations belonging to one and the same transactions. Not only that, there can also be a mutating table. Mutating table is nothing but it contains row which change their value after certain operation. So, over and above there can be a change of the same value, that is supposed to be a mutation. So, it can happen on a row. So, a row can contain the change of their values after certain operation and which are used again before the current transaction commits. So, before we commit on a specific transaction or current transaction that we wish to do, there is a change automatically that happens over and above the previous operation, that is called mutation table. Not only that, we can also have preventing table, we can also prevent table mutation by looking at some of the constraints, like it should not contain rows which are constrained by rows from other changing tables. It should not contain rows which are updated and read in one and same operation. It should not contain rows which are updated and read via other operations during the same transaction. So, here is an example of a mutating table that we have seen it already. create or replace trigger employee count. After a deletion operation on employee, for each row, declare NUM as integer, the number as integer, begin select count star from into num from employee. The DBMS output should be there are rows, there are now so many number of employees that exist in the employee relation. So, this we are trying to calculate the overall employee count on a specific department or on a specific employee table. Whenever there is a command called delete from employee where department number is equal to 30, this would rather say an error statement where we may not be able to see a function. So, under the bar is code entered in SQL Plus where triggering a cascading updates is in this is of more ease. So, triggers are not executed directly into this particular statement. Whereas, if you look at the second constraint for the same statement, if I try generating a delete from employee where department is equal to 30, now that we can say there are now 8 employees who are associated with this particular relation and 6 rows will be deleted. So, now the trigger becomes a statement trigger and the employee table is no longer mutating. So, if you look at the previous instance where there seems to be a mutating table, and with the current instance we have a fixed relationship having given, we have an execution which is very common. So, there are certain standard rules for executing a good SQL in practice. Rule number 1, do not change data in a primary key, foreign key or unique key columns of any table. Rule 2, do not update records in the same table you read during the same transaction. Rule 3, do not aggregate over the same table you are updating. And rule 4, do not read data from a table which is updated during the same transaction. So, after having done a practice of triggering, if you adopt to all the 4 rules that we have presented here, then it becomes a regular very good SQL practice that we can make. So, in short, for this particular session we have looked at, for the first 2 sessions we have been looking at active databases, where we tried comparing with the passive database and an active database. Active databases mostly happens by an event condition action rule. So, it is majorly on the situation action rules, and not only that, this tries to support major functionalities like integrity control, access control, monitoring, derived data, change notifications. All these operations could be performed only with the help of this SQL triggers. So, some active database functionality which are commercially available in SQL 99, that is the higher version of SQL as part of triggers. Thank you.